Hello everyone, my name's Fiercetooth, and I'm here to teach you the bare bones basics of Pyro so you can run out of spawn, hold W plus M1, and then get yelled at instantly by the entire red team as you somehow burn them all to death. Now, a quick disclaimer before I start the video, okay? The stats of the weapons I will be showing you may change later on, so be sure to keep that in mind if you're watching this in the far future. Okay, without further ado, let's get right into it and cover Pyro's pros and cons. Pyro's biggest pro is definitely his Flamethrower. Pyro is an absolute monster in close range combat, with his flames being able to deal afterburn damage. I'll get more into afterburn later though. Pyro's Flamethrower has a short range versus other classes, but the damage the Flamethrower can deal makes up for this. Pyro also has 175 health, putting him third in terms of most health in TF2. This seems like a nice, fiery package of absolute fun. 175 health, tons of damage in close range, and a wicked Flamethrower. But, hold on there buddy. Pyro is effective in close range combat. At long distances, Pyro will absolutely be obliterated by classes such as Sniper, Heavy, and even Medic in some cases. Soldier and Demoman can also hurt you at long ranges, but you can counter their damage, which I'll get into soon. This means that in large open areas and/or maps, Pyro will have a hard time being effective. But Pyro's movement is pretty decent. You're not fast like a scout, but you aren't slow like a soldier either. This makes Pyro a pretty even balance in terms of movement between the two offense classes. This means that if you're clever with your movement, you can surprise your opponents at the right moment to force them to fight you in a close quarters combat situation. However, you may be asking, but Fiercetooth, how does Pyro excel in close quarters combat? Well, to answer that, let's get into his weapons. When starting up the game, you're going to have 3 weapons for Pyro: the Flamethrower, the Shotgun, and the Fire Axe. We're also going to take a look at the Degreaser, the Dragon's Fury, the Flare Gun, the Thermal Thruster, the Power Jack, and the Back Scratcher, which are weapons that you will unlock after some time playing TF2. These weapons will fundamentally change Pyro and help you be more effective in combat. Now without further ado, let's start off with Pyro's first weapon, the Flamethrower. The Flamethrower can do 2 things. Spurt out some flames to light people on fire, which you can do by holding the left click button on your mouse, or M1 for short. And then there's his Airblast, which can knock enemies back and extinguish teammates. To use your Airblast, you have to press the right click button on your mouse, or M2 for short. These 2 things can do some crazy stuff if you use them correctly. Now let's take a closer look at Pyro's primary fire, aka M1. The flames of Pyro's Flamethrower has a very short range, but can deal some serious damage the longer an enemy is in your range. Even if an enemy can escape your range, the flames have an effect on the enemy called Afterburn. Unless they're Pyros, then you might have a problem, but I'll go over that later. While running away after being set on fire, the flames will burn on the enemy for some time, dealing periodic damage, which means that even if your enemy kills you, or escapes, there's still a chance that they will burn to death. Sadly, the flames from Afterburn can be extinguished if an enemy picks up a health pack, or gets airblasted by a pyro on their team. While medics can heal them, the flames will still deal damage to them, but that damage can be negated by medics healing. So try and pick targets that are far away from health packs, friendly pyros, and medics. This will ensure that you have a chance at killing them with Afterburn if they kill you first or they escape you. Now with Pyro's flames out of the way, let's get into his Airblast. Listen, I'm going to scream this at you until you get it. Always extinguish burning teammates. If you see a teammate on fire, press M2 and put him out. Don't just stand there, please. Airblast me. Come on, Pyro, please. Airblast me. Pyro's Airblast can extinguish flaming teammates, and it even gives you 20 health when you do so. While the Airblast does chew up some extra ammo, it's always worth it to airblast a burning teammate. And hey, there's plenty of ammo boxes on the front lines. Pyro's Airblast can also knock enemies back unless they're under the effects of knockback immunity. This means that as a Pyro, you can knock enemies off cliffs, away from injured teammates, away from yourself, and even separate ubered enemies. And to top it all off, if you can time your Airblast correctly, you can reflect explosives. Yep, this means that when a soldier fires a rocket at you, you can Airblast it right back at him. And while it won't always hit him, it definitely won't hit you. Unless there's another enemy Pyro that reflects it back to you. Then you might have some trouble. Pyro can also reflect Demo Man's grenades and stickies. The grenades will fly back and explode, dealing damage to any enemies nearby. As for stickies, if you don't hit them mid-air, then the stickies will just roll away a bit. While this doesn't seem all that good, it's somewhat useful as your team has less chance of walking into them. Pyro can even deflect flare shots from other Pyros, but make sure to check your ammo when doing so. An Airblast will consume 20 of your ammo, and your Airblast takes a bit of time before it's ready again. So don't run in there all willy-nilly, or you're going to be gunned down. Okay, now that we have Pyro's Flamethrower out of the way, let's get to the Degreaser. The Degreaser has a 60% deployment speed and a 30% faster holster speed at the cost of a minus 66% damage penalty to Afterburn and a 25% increase in Airblast cost. These percentages are daunting at first, but I'm going to put them into English for you. The Degreaser can be whipped out faster and put away quicker at the expense of having Airblast consume more ammo and Afterburn dealing less damage. This means that if you're doing something with your secondary or melee weapon, and someone decides to shoot a rocket at you, you can whip out the Degreaser and reflect it back faster. The next weapon you'll probably unlock after some time playing TF2 is the Dragon's Fury. The Dragon's Fury is a single-shot flamethrower that shoots out fireballs. While it is a single-shot weapon, the fireballs can deal immense damage upon impact, but have little to no afterburn damage. This means that Pyro's range can be expanded, but in order to be effective, he must land his shots. If you can land your shots, however, most enemies will die in 2 to 3 hits, with the exception of Overheal. The Dragon's Fury also has limited ammo and rate of fire, meaning you can't just run in there and hold M1, or W plus M1. Pyro's next weapon, the shotgun, is a great weapon to use if you're ever out of ammo for your flamethrower, or your enemy's out of range of your flamethrower, or better yet, if you don't want your enemy to get up close and personal with you when you're fighting them. Pyro's shotgun has 6 shots, similar to Soldier's shotgun, and its range is slightly longer than the flamethrowers. Also, let's say you're fighting a soldier and you're burning him to death, but Soldier is up close and personal with you too, and he can launch a rocket right at your face which will deal some serious damage. But with the shotgun, you can airblast him back so he doesn't have that range, slam him with a shotgun shell, and then let the afterburn do the rest. An overall great starting tool. But the next weapon is even better, the flare gun. The flare gun is a flare gun. The flare gun deals critical hit damage to enemies who are on fire, meaning that if you hit an enemy who's on fire with the flare gun, you can deal a massive amount of damage to them. To make it even better, the flare gun can also set players on fire if you can land a hit, but the flames don't last very long. The flare gun has an incredible range, but it travels in an arc, so take that into account before firing it all willy-nilly. But here's the real meat of the flare gun. You can combine it with your flamethrower to make some wicked combo kills. By lighting an enemy on fire, air blasting them, and hitting them with a flare, you will chew out a large chunk of their health, which means you have a higher chance of killing them. The only problem is that if you miss, you're gonna have to reload, and that reload time might cost you your life, so be warned. But let's say that you want to have a bit of fun with Pyro. Well, the Thermal Thruster is for you. The Thermal Thruster is a jetpack for Pyro that can launch him into the air and allow him to gain some extra mobility or make a quick getaway. The initial blast that launches Pyro into the air can extinguish teammates on fire. but the thermal thruster only has 2 charges, meaning that you have to be smart with your charges. The thermal thruster also has to take a bit of time to deploy when switching to it, so make sure you don't wait until the last second to take it out. Now with Pyro's secondary weapons out of the way, let's move on to Pyro's melee. The Fire Axe. The Fire Axe is just like Scout's Bat and Soldier's Shovel. It's an axe to use when all else fails and you can't take the time to reload. Okay, now that we have that weapon out of the way, let's move on to the Power Jack. The Power Jack is a melee weapon that you will get later on in the game. The Power Jack, when taken out, can boost Pyro's speed by 15% and even gives him 25 health upon killing someone with the weapon at the cost of him taking a 20% damage vulnerability penalty. This means that when you hold out the Power Jack, you will take more damage when it's out versus when it's put away. But since it's a melee weapon, and melees aren't really used that much, you can use the Power Jack to reach the front lines quicker and help your team. The final weapon you'll probably unlock after some time playing TF2 is the Back Scratcher. The Back Scratcher is perfect for you if your team doesn't have a medic. You deal an extra 25% extra damage and additional 50% increased health gained from health packs, at the expense of having medics not able to heal you as quickly. A great melee weapon if you're a lone wolf on the team. Now that we have Pyro's main weapons out of the way, let's look at his counters. Pyro's heaviest counter is the Heavy. The Heavy's gigantic health bar and fast firing speed means that getting up close and personal with the Heavy will most likely end in you getting full of bullets, as you'll be in that perfect sweet spot for Heavy. Number 1 tip for fighting Heavies is to rush in with your team. When there's more than one team member shooting at a Heavy, that's your time to strike, as he will be distracted by all the other teammates, allowing you to sneak in and light him on fire. So remember the golden rule: don't rush Heavies alone. Pyro's second counter is the Sniper, but he's a semi-big counter. While Sniper can hit you from long distances, you can too with your flare gun. By aiming it just right, you can send a flare soaring through the sky to land right onto that sniper and force him to retreat as he becomes a bright glowing beacon for your entire team to see. But be warned that if you don't spot the sniper immediately, your brains will be blown out. Pyro can also be countered by other Pyros. This is a weird thing to go over, but I'm gonna try my best to explain it. Pyros can't be set on fire unless one of them uses the gas passer, but let's be honest, who really uses the gas passer? Anyways, Pyro has a flame retardant suit, which makes him immune to all afterburn damage. In a nutshell, you'll only take damage when directly in the flames of a flamethrower. This makes fighting other Pyros tricky, and there's a number of different ways you can tackle it. If you're the first to surprise the Pyro and light him on fire, keep doing that and you might win. If you're caught in it first, your only hope is to airblast the other Pyro and try to make some distance, and then switch to your secondary. So the question is, who does Pyro counter? Well, Pyro counters 4 main classes: Scout, Soldier, Demoman, and that Baguette Stealer Spy. With Scout having to get up close and personal to kill enemies, he gets right into your sweet spot, allowing you to set him on fire. Combined with his low health, Scouts will most likely die after you set them on fire, meaning you can save your medic if he's ever being harassed by a Scout. Pyro can also counter Soldiers, as he can reflect his rockets right back at him, negating any would-be splash damage. Same thing goes for Demo, as you can get rid of his stickies and grenades. And finally, Spy. With your Flamethrower, you can spy check, which basically means spurting out some flames to see if you can set a disguised or cloaked spy on fire. This will reveal his location to your team, allowing them to take him out before he can try to backstab one of your teammates. With that, now you should know the bare bones basics of Pyro, so get out there, burn some people, and then die as the entire enemy team guns you down. This is Fierce Tooth, and remember, always steal that sentient.